The second stylized fact that we want to establish is that the aggregate supply curve is vertical. What this means is that aggregate supply does not depend on the price level in the long run. We've established in earlier lectures that the absolute level of prices is not important in terms of when we think about productivity. What matters is the way we use our resources. The natural rate of output is the level of output in the economy that's consistent with the natural rate of unemployment. That is, when the economy is operating at equilibrium. In equilibrium, remember, there is some level of unemployment as people change jobs and enter and leave the labor force. So the natural rate of output is the one that's consistent with the natural rate of unemployment. What kinds of things increase aggregate supply? Well, think back to the very early lectures in the course where we thought about the factors of production in the production possibilities frontier. The things that shift the aggregate supply curve are the same things that shift the production possibilities frontier. If we have an increase in labor, for instance, through immigration, we might see an increase in aggregate supply. As workers become more educated and develop more skills through human capital, this can lead to an increase in aggregate supply. Increases in physical capital, increases in our level of natural resources, or improvements in technology. All of these things increase aggregate supply and increase the level of output that's consistent with full employment, or the natural rate of employment. In the long run, we can expect that the level of output and the price level will be determined by the interaction of the long-run aggregate supply curve and the economy's aggregate demand curve. So if we consider the graph at the right, what we see here is we begin at a level of output Y with an aggregate demand curve AD, and this gives us price level P. Suppose that, for instance, over the long run, we expect to see technological progress. That is, we expect to see productivity growth in the economy. What this will do over the long run is shift the long-run aggregate supply curve to LRAS prime, and we can also expect that increased monetary policy or expansionary monetary policy will work to shift the aggregate demand curve to the right. What we expect is that as the Fed works to accommodate and promote price stability, as the Fed works to keep prices stable in the long run, that they will increase the money supply to be consistent with this new level of economic activity. They will work to shift the aggregate demand curve to the right. So technological progress increases the capacity of the economy and boosts the long-run aggregate supply curve from Y to Y prime, while the Fed works to keep price stability to boost aggregate demand to aggregate demand prime, to AD prime, and accommodate this new level of productivity and maintain stable prices. Note, what's important here is that in the long run, GDP is determined by the location of the long-run aggregate supply curve. What matters here for output is the location of the long-run aggregate supply curve, and that's what's going to tell us where the economy will be in equilibrium. And then the Fed adjusts the money supply to control the price level.